All right, let's talk about something that is seriously about to shake up the tech world. The EU's brand new AI Act. And look, this isn't just some boring piece of legislation. It's actually the world's very first major rulebook for artificial intelligence.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, it's an EU law, but trust me, the effects are going to be felt everywhere. Remember what GDPR did for data privacy? Well, the AI Act is set to do the exact same thing for AI, basically setting a new global standard. So the big question is, how does it all work?
Well, to get to the bottom of that, you have to grasp the one core idea that the entire law is built around. It's a really simple but, powerful concept that sorts all AI into a few different buckets.
The whole AI Act really just boils down to one thing: risk. The thinking behind it is that not all AI is the same, right? So the rule of thumb is this: the higher the potential risk an AI system poses to our safety or our rights, the stricter the rules it has to follow. Simple as that.
It's all structured like a pyramid with 4 levels. At the very, very top, you've got AI that's considered an unacceptable risk, and that stuff is just outright banned. Done. Below that, you have high-risk systems. They're allowed, but they face a whole bunch of strict regulations. Then there's limited risk AI, where it's mostly about being transparent. And finally, at the bottom, you have minimal risk AI. Think of stuff like a spam filter in your email, which is pretty much free to use without any heavy rules.
So let's start at the top of that pyramid with what is definitely the most dramatic part of this law. What kind of AI is so potentially dangerous that the EU decided, nope, we're banning this completely?
First up on the banned list, government social scoring. The Act makes it crystal clear that public authorities are not allowed to use AI to score their citizens based on their behavior or personal characteristics, especially if that score could lead to someone being treated unfairly.
Next, there's a ban on AI that uses subliminal tricks to manipulate you. The really key part here is that this is for systems that can seriously change your behavior in a way that could cause harm, often without you even knowing what's happening.
And the ban list keeps going. It also makes it illegal to use AI that preys on vulnerable people because of their age or a disability. It says you can't have systems that categorize people based on sensitive stuff like their race or political beliefs. And this is a big one. It bans the random, untargeted scraping of facial images from the internet or CCTV to build huge facial recognition databases.
Okay, let's move down one level to high-risk AI. Now, this is where most of the heavy regulation really kicks in. These systems aren't banned, but they have to jump through a lot of hoops to be legally used in the EU.
So, what exactly makes an AI system high risk? Well, the law basically defines it as any AI that could pose a serious threat to someone's health, their safety, or their fundamental human rights. This is where things get really serious.
And these high-risk systems, they're not some far-off sci-fi concept. They're already here, in really critical parts of our lives. We're talking about AI that helps decide if you get into a university, if you get that job you applied for, or even if you get a promotion. It's also in systems that manage our power grids and water supply, and even tools that police use to assess if someone is a risk.
Now, the Act makes a really important distinction when it comes to police using biometric tech. Real-time facial recognition in public places, that's almost completely banned, with just a handful of exceptions for really serious crimes. But post-analysis, looking at recorded video after something has already happened, that's also regulated, but it has a different, slightly less strict set of rules.
So for any company building one of these high-risk systems, this right here is the gauntlet they have to run. They need to prove they have ongoing risk management. They absolutely must use high-quality, unbiased data. They have to keep detailed technical documents, and they have to ensure there's a real person who can oversee the system. And on top of all that, they have to meet super high standards for accuracy and cybersecurity. It's a lot.
All right, moving further down the pyramid, we see that even for AI that isn't considered high risk, the law still has some really important rules. For these systems that have what's called limited risk, it pretty much all comes down to one word: transparency. To put it simply, you have a right to know when you're dealing with AI. The law says you have to be told if you're talking to a chatbot, you have to be told if that video you're watching is a deepfake, you have to be told if a system is trying to analyze your emotions, or if that news article you're reading was actually written by an AI.
The Act also creates a special category for the real heavyweights of the AI world: General Purpose AI Models, or GPAI. You definitely know these as foundation models. They're the massive, powerful engines that run the most advanced chatbots and image generators we're all using.
And just to give you an idea of the insane scale we're talking about here, the most powerful GPI models, the ones that are considered a potential systemic risk, are defined by how much computer power it took to train them. That number is 10 to the 25th power floating point operations. That is a 1 with 25 zeros after it. I mean, that is a truly mind-blowing amount of power.
The companies that make these monster models, they get their own special rule book. They have to run intense evaluations on their models, they have to manage for systemic risks, they have to report any serious problems, and they have to keep their cybersecurity rock solid. And, this is a huge one, they have to publish detailed summaries of the content they use to train their AI.
So, with all these rules, you might be wondering, how does the EU plan to enforce all this without just killing innovation? Well, the Act really tries to strike a balance here, using both a big stick for enforcement and a carrot to encourage new development.
So on the enforcement side, you've got a brand new European AI office and the power to launch investigations across countries. But on the innovation side, the law creates these things called AI regulatory sandboxes for safe testing, and it gives special help to small and medium-sized businesses to help them keep up.
These sandboxes are actually a really cool part of the strategy. They're basically safe, controlled spaces where companies, especially the smaller ones, can build and test their new AI ideas with regulators watching over them, making sure they're following the rules right from the very beginning.
And just to make sure everybody takes this seriously, the penalties have some real teeth. Getting caught using a banned AI system can land you a fine of up to 35 million euros, or 7% of your company's entire global revenue, whichever number is bigger. So yeah, the message is pretty clear. The EU is not messing around.
So when you zoom out, what's the big picture here? The EU's AI Act, with its unique focus on risk, is way more than just a law for one region. It's really the first complete blueprint for how to govern this incredibly powerful technology, and it's basically set to become the new global standard.
The framework is now officially in place, and you can already see the effects spreading through the tech industry around the world. And that leaves us with one final massive question. The EU has drawn the line in the sand and set the new rules for the age of AI. The only question now is, will the rest of the world follow?